Welcome back, everybody. Mike Von Awesome here. Today with me is Tony, and we are going to go over the new Eberron book. There was an announcement.
Yeah. Yeah, I found it this morning. My standard issue morning is when I get up, I get on Twitter, and I get a lot of D&D news because I follow D&D people. And it's so funny because me and Mike yesterday were just talking about how the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron was like kind of lackluster, not necessarily in content, but also just in appearance. Like it looks like a player's companion or a UA supplement or something. It doesn't look official. And we were like, wow, I wonder if they're going to ever re-release a new Eberron book, like with the Artificer class. So I get up this morning and I check Twitter, and immediately the first thing I see is Amazon leaked the cover for a new Eberron book before I saw any official announcements.
Yeah. So Amazon leaked the cover.
Yeah.
And now it's getting a lot of just traction both ways. Some people instantly having positive thoughts. A lot of people having instant negative thoughts towards it. Some feel very shallow. People were hating on the cover.
Yeah, so many people hate the standard cover. And like, I don't super get it. It doesn't look like the worst thing ever. But the alternate cover looks bomb as hell.
Yeah, the alternate cover is very good. It's got a very steampunky feel to it.
Yeah.
It's got like a Dune cover almost.
Yeah. It's exactly what I would have wanted from an Eberron book.
It's kind of what I think we would have wanted the first time around.
Absolutely.
And so the Artificer class was not ready at the time. I was super into the Artificer class the first time that they revisited it. And then they come out with a new one that doesn't seem... It's less on the nose for me. It's a little bit more just like a different wizard.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into the gripes on that. But they had plans to officially put it in the book then? Is that...
Yeah, so it did explicitly mention on both the Amazon store item that it was, and I believe in the official announcement, yes. Weld magic and invention to craft objects of wonder as an artificer. So I'm very curious to see what the official quote-unquote artificer is going to be. Again, not to get too much into gripes, the alchemist portion of it was kind of lackluster for me. I wanted it to be a more like actual alchemist, like you're making potions and things. That's sort of what the first re-edition of it was. And then they changed it with that homunculus thing. I'm really hoping that the archivist sticks around, though. That was very interesting to me. Although I realized later on today that I haven't read it in a while, but when I initially read it, it felt very similar to the loremonger abilities in Acquisitions Incorporated. Yeah. So I'm wondering if they're going to kind of make those synergize, or if they're going to change Archivist, take it out completely. I'm very, very curious.
Yeah, and for me, the Alchemist, just the gunsmith whole archetype was just sang to me. The Thunder Cannon and everything about it was super interesting to me. And in the most recent version of it, they just stripped all of that away. They kind of had the version that, I can't think of the archetype name right now, but that made turrets that kind of had their own action, but they weren't really even there. You kind of made it out of thin air, and then after a certain amount of time they just left anyways. So
yeah, it was like a different form of conjuration, maybe.
Yeah, it seemed like it really ran on a conjuration type basis. And I know that after Mordekainen's released a very good amount of new clockwork things, I kind of want to see something like that.
Yeah, I would love to see not even necessarily like your gunsmith, but just sort of like an engineer type class where like you don't have magic, you just make gizmos and doodads that like do things for you. I think that'd be super cool, because I don't know, I mean, I know there's a bunch of like crafting rules and Xanathars, but I don't think there's really any mechanics right now to sit down and be like, I'm gonna make like a clockwork automaton or something.
Let's shift and talk about the races and subclasses that was promised only vaguely. They kind of just threw numbers at us.
Yeah, 16 is what they said. 16 new race/subrace options, including dragon marks, which magically transform certain members of the races in the player's handbook. I'm very curious to see if they expand dragon marks in any way, because
Yeah.
the existing ones are very good, but they do leave some gaps, I think.
Not only do they leave gaps, I feel like far too many of them required human.
Yeah.
Or elf.
Yeah.
Like, and that's cool. I get it. You know, to have the house mark, you have to be of that family, and maybe that's more. But I feel like when we're really getting into it and really making it just not viable to have the barbarian kobold, it's not viable to have the orc wizard. You know, like it's just it really kind of it hurts me a little bit that it stints different ways to kind of get out of the box, because there's goofy fun characters, but then there's just mechanically not viable characters.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I know one of them that sticks out to me, I believe it's the Mark of the Shadow, the super stealthy one, is only for, I believe, elves.
And that happens more often than not.
Yeah.
After reading through the original Eberron book, as far as these subclasses are going, I'm very interested in the dinosaur riding halflings. Like that whole thing is just it was so good to me. And halflings have never gotten anything past PHB. Yeah.
No, halflings don't get anything. I mean, they got some racial feats in Xanathars.
And then there was expanded racial feats that came out later as well.
Yeah. And I'd love to see those make it into a book.
Yeah. Other than just a separate kind of documentation, to actually be in a book would be good. And if we're going to be doing specific stuff based on races, then it would be nice to see the Kalashtar get a specific feat.
Yeah,
or the
the shifter, or the changeling, or something.
The Warforged. I mean, it would be pretty cool, in my opinion, to see that. Jeremy Crawford had come on Twitter saying that the orcs were going to see kind of a resurgence, kind of get some more versions of that. Hopefully similar to how Mordecai's was very good to the tieflings.
Yeah, because we just realized this, Kizzy. We just realized that the orcs and half-orcs, they don't really have like a quote-unquote sub-race option, which it is weird to me because every other race has these like sub-races except for orcs. Orcs are just half-orcs. Surely there are different types of orcs in the world. Maybe some live in colder climates. Maybe some live in grass plains or something like that.
Also, the second you open up the option that this is a half-orc, so its parentage could definitely affect the way that race of orcs grow.
Exactly. Like, what is the other... Because, not to interrupt you, but I feel like with a lot of the half races, there's this assumption that the other parent is always a human, which isn't the case. Like, a half-elf can be like half-elf, half-orc.
Yeah.
Or like half-elf, half-tiefling.
Yeah.
You know?
There's definitely a lot of stuff we can have. I know that there was talk about an orcish race that in Eberron started druidism.
Yeah.
So like that's their whole history.
Yeah.
Like they're not the war kind. A lot of different races that are considered monstrous otherwise in Eberron are totally a different thing.
Exactly. Like, are we going to see something like for bugbears?
That'd be cool. I would very much like to see a lot of the monstrous races that we got out of Xanathars open up and get more options.
Yeah, or like goblins. Do goblins have a sub-race?
They do not.
Yeah, like that'd be great. A little, like, there has to be different types of goblins in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think that coming from like Magic the Gathering, where every different plane of existence, the goblins look completely different. I mean, and just everything, it just operates differently.
Yeah.
So to kind of lose the Faerun aspect of it and just like, no, this is how this plane operates. This is how a whole different. Yeah. Yeah, I want to see. How many did they say?
16.
16. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Even if you want to go based on like gods or whatnot, and if we are going to touch monstrous races, I really would love to see playable gnolls. I don't know if that's asking too much.
No, but I think it'd be really cool because they have such an interesting lore, and like even in the Eberron setting, you have this pantheon that's like kind of completely different from every other D&D setting that I'm familiar with. And the only one that I know of that has a very distinct tie to a deity are the changelings. They're all descended from the Traveler. Or not descended from, but they were created by the Traveler. And I would love to see just some more things like that. Like, okay, now we have orcs, for example. We have this race of orcs that are like, they're all kind of influenced by this one deity. Although I would also love for wizards to kind of stray from their standard comment of like, oh, orcs are evil, tieflings are evil, drow are evil,
Yeah.
like goblins are evil. I don't like this idea that like, oh, all of these races, no matter what plane they're on, no matter where they're from, they're always evil because something.
Yeah.
Especially in a plane where like the orc group that makes them evil doesn't even exist in Eberron.
There definitely could be much more divergent type aspects to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I just to add a couple, you know, we already got Catman. I kind of want to see some dog boys. Give me some roles. Like, I don't know, it'd be neat. I am fingers crossed that we are gonna get some airship battle stuff. We have Ghosts of Saltmarsh that did a wonderful job giving us the framework for boat on boat. And airship battling, I need to see it. I would love to get that third dimension in it without having to homebrew stuff, without having to kind of work around different things. To see it actually official would be very cool.
Yeah, especially now that they're describing it as where noir-inspired mystery meets swashbuckling adventures. Like, to me, that says some type of, like, air piracy, which would be so cool. Air pirates.
But then, like, noir-inspired, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what that can mean. Are we going to get more types of intrigue options that you can kind of, like, put inside of different campaigns?
Yeah, because, like, it's mentioning here that kind of the main focus city-wise is the city of Sharn, listing skyscrapers, airships, and noirish intrigue. So that to me tells me is that we're going to almost see something like a Raymond Chandler-esque like New York City setting where, you know, there's some grizzled detective on the ground and, you know, it's very steampunk meets 1930s noir. And that's a very interesting crossroads to me, and I'm very curious to see what that means to Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Also, just definitely, I wanted to mention the lost it again. No, the end of the war, which seems to be where this is all placed.
Yeah. So it's titled "Rising from the Last War."
Yeah. So over this great war, where the Warforged were kind of made as like a contingency plan to definitely win. They're like, oh, we have no problem if we just keep making soldiers. And then at the end of it, they were supposed to be granted their own ability to be free. And there was a lot of questions. Well, how long do the Warforged even live for? Mm-hmm. Are they just, you know, until they're physically decayed into nothing? Like, or do they actually have a soul? Like, there's so many questions that I had from playing Warforged from a whole campaign. And it just kind of, there is a couple gaps here and there. And I would like to see if they really just lore dump on us. Just give us a whole bunch of different, like, how did the war end out? Or is that something up to the DM? Like, or were there new allies that were gained from it? I mean, it's so much that could be in this book. I don't know what we're going to get.
Yeah, just like the last comment on the tagline. Will Eberron enter a prosperous new age, or will the shadow of war descend once again? So to me, that tells me is that you're going to almost like a reconstruction era, right? Where you're going to have these different areas, different factions, maybe the different Dragonmark houses. They're trying to rebuild Eberron, or are they just going to descend into infighting again and cause another war? We've got comments here like confront horrific monsters born from the world's devastating wars, which, like, what kind of creature stat blocks are we going to get in this book?
I mean, I like seeing some of the littler stat blocks for different types of adventures, but I like to see the climb. Mordecaians give us very hefty CR. And it would be interesting to see what kind of creatures come out of this plane. Are we going to get just brand new types of fiends?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there's so much that we can get. And I'm trying not to overhype myself. But I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this book, though. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Descent to Avernus.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting some really good content from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to see where they go. Especially now that 5e is, like, in its 5th year, which I think is kind of when a lot of older editions and other editions of other role-playing games kind of start to peter out a little bit. They start looking for, like, a 6e or, like, a 5.5.
Yeah.
And even if that were to come, I have no idea what it would be. Like, for me, 5e is like such a sweet spot.
Yeah, and I think that now that we're constantly getting new stuff, new things to play with. Different modules are becoming, you know, canon. They're getting into official. I mean, we had Ravnica and Acquisitions Incorporated, and all these different things that kind of come in and just keep the edition alive.
Yeah, and I definitely think that we may even see, because I know they have the other plane shift books that they did for Magic, Ixalan, Zendikar, but I would love to see them make it into a book like the Ravnica book, because Mike has just sort of got me playing Magic, and now I kind of know a little bit about it. But Ravnica, as a source book, when we first played around with it, I had no idea what it was about. Mm-hmm. And it was so interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And just delving into the other plane shift, like not even really books, they're kind of packets almost. Mm-hmm. They're all so interesting, and they just have such a wealth of what they could offer to 5th edition. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that we're going to maybe see some more Magic D&D crossover in the future.
I hope so. Yeah. And I hope that it comes with this amount of effort that Ravnica did.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really gives you a lot. I mean, it had a small module in there, but otherwise it had a lot of different types of modular things where, there's a problem. Well, who started the problem? Well, this guy, because he thinks it's those people. And like, I very much enjoy that level of intrigue, which we might see reflected on Eberron. Yeah. Which house is bad right now? Well, who's trying to ruin it?
Exactly.
Oh, it's that house, but that house is framing him, really.
Exactly. Are we going to see the houses of Eberron become almost like a Ravnica guild situation, or like a Sword Coast factions kind of situation? I'm very, very curious.
So, just to end the video, 1 pro, 1 con
of the whole book.
Yeah, just from what you know. I mean, it's we haven't gotten our hands on it yet.
Yeah, pro. Ooh, a lot of it. I mean, just I think the level of technology is a big pro for me, because we haven't seen any like kind of advancing quote unquote technology. I think Dragon Heist is really the only book I've seen that's recently been printed where you can see technology advancing in Faerun. So I think it'd be really interesting to see this kind of magic fueled technology, as they're calling it. Yeah. One con right now is the last thing I saw from Artificer was not great, in my opinion. So unless they put some serious work into it, I'm worried that we're going to run into like a new worst class situation. Like Ranger is no longer the worst class because now Artificer is.
Yeah, I think that just in kind, pro for me, I want to see more subclasses. I think that is huge. I think that 16?
Races, not classes, but yes, 16.
Oh, yeah, races, sorry. To have different options so that maybe we can get more magically fueled monstrous classes and maybe a human that just gets +2 strength. Like this is just a beefy group of people. I mean, there's different things that we can get, and I would like to see how that's going to work out. Maybe we get a strength halfling,
or like a intelligence half orc.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff we can get from that. Con, I can't help but feel a little irked that this book already came out once. We already had an Eberron, and the first time around it just felt very just black and white, like almost like a 2-dimensional. It felt like I was looking at a fan's PDF, not any kind of official source material. I think that we're going to have a lot of people that may feel like they got shunted, having to already buy it once when it was not necessarily up to snuff. It didn't feel as good as a Wizard's published material.
It felt very much like one of the Plane Shift books rather than an official publication.
Yeah.
And they were official publications, but... Yeah,
but that's even before the guys at Wizards were putting out some serious Ravnica, like good Magic the Gathering content. Yeah. If they're going to try to give us equivalents there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that is at least our take. Hopefully you learned something, liked it maybe, leave any kind of comments, catch the stream we have currently going on Twitch every Sunday at
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
Yes, I'm currently DMing Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Once that concludes, Mike will be taking over as DM with Dungeons of the Mad Mage.
Yeah, it should be a wild ride. 1 to 20, we're doing it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I will see you all in the next video.
If you did like it, like and subscribe.